and the social media are garbling up the truths, the new truths that are coming out in the classroom. So please, please, please make sure that you are sharing, liking, following, do everything you possibly can to help grow the classroom. I am relying on you. So if you're on YouTube, share the link and share it via text. If you are on Facebook, you know what to do. We know how to tag. But today we don't have Robert playing the music, and we're gonna pretend dance. No, we're gonna get ready for today because this weekend, the weekend that I just did with New Truths, let me get stuff. Let me get it recorded here. So today we are going to reflect, especially after the New Truth series, I Am the Solution. And we get to see that many of us have self-esteem issues. We may not call them self-esteem. We might call it being a shopaholic or food addicted or in abusive relationships. We may call it, depressed, or we may call it anxious, but the root, maybe somewhere in there, self-esteem has to play the role, to play the key. And so I'm so glad that we have Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson. I've got these names in my head, and it's like a moment of my tongue wanted to say something. It's a good thing that this is just for Facebook and YouTube. Because, oh no, I started the recording. I already started the recording. But we don't have the music. We're going to take a pause because we want Robert to be able to insert the music in there for the podcast and everything. But I want you all to know that today you need to come to the classroom at 100% with your soul shovel so we can dig until there's only truth. So fasten your seatbelt because we are going to learn and grow together. So this is where we're going to pause. Robert's going to mute us and he's going to play the music. Hey, hey, hey. This is where we dance. Everybody, I hope you're dancing. Have the music playing in your head. And it is time. It is time. Hello, my listening and viewing friends. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are new to the Lillian McDermott radio show classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, today, as I mentioned, we have Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson. And we just absolutely love Mark Dawson. And so today we are going to be talking about self-esteem and how it kind of hides with many masks, many names, and all of that. And so we have Dr. LaMasa-Dawson, Michelle LaMasa-Dawson, and she is an expert in so many different things. We've talked about recall healing. We've talked about German new medicine. And so she's here to teach us more than just taking the pill and how you yourself can manage your life in a totally different way with a totally different set of eyes. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. LaMasa-Dawson is here. Oh my gosh. Before we started the classroom today, we did a little bit of a dance. And I had just told Dr. Michelle that I was exhausted. Today, I've been with my father now at the hospital. And of course, I left there for you and I knew my sister would be there. But that stress and that going back and forth, making sure that I have nutrition in my body and making sure that I can remember things right now with 3 hours of sleep. I am just want you to pray for me right now, because we need to, and who better than have Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson. And so here's the deal. Today, I want to start by telling you a story, real quick story. My dad has been having major bleeding, but he is on two blood thinners. And as soon as I heard he had this massive bleeding, and I've been trying to get him off these two blood thinners. One of them is baby aspirin, and the other one is Plavix. And they're trying to get as many tests in the hospital as possible. And they still wanted to do it's like a smaller version of a colonoscopy. And I'm thinking, he's getting better. His body's healing. But here's the deal. When they put him in the hospital, they also started giving him another drug. So my sister's calling me with, Daddy is hallucinating. Daddy is confused. He's like entered dementia, full onset dementia. So today, while I was with my dad, they're putting some stuff in his IV. And I said, what is that? Are those his medications that he normally takes? No, we put him on a new drug that helps with acid reflux and also helps with ulcer. He has neither. But they added this medication. So I asked what it's, I asked the name, I did my research, hallucinations, confusion, dementia-like symptoms is the side effect. But yet they said, oh, sometimes people get like this when they go into a hospital. Do not trust anything but your intuition. And so I want to start with this, Dr. Michelle, because I know that many of what you do is about listening to the body. My dad needed, as soon as they took him off the medications, his body started healing, like almost right away. But they still had to do more research because they found something, some blood or whatever. Tell us, what is your recommendation about something like this when it comes to listening to the body and allowing it to heal as naturally as possible?
So thank you, Lily. First, thank you for having me here and just lift you up and surround you with energy
It's
and
nice to have my
love.
friend with me today.
Like it's never by mistake that
Yeah.
we, get to be together when we get to be together. So I'm honored to be here, and it's hard to go through all of this and to watch our family go through certain things, and especially when we have a very different mindset. And so it's so challenging. So the first thing I have to say is, because we know that we live in this Western world where big pharma is very much in control, I would say. And so we always say that we don't interfere. But if a person is on medications, I would say, let's look at the reason why you have to take these medications. So if the blood is coming together and it's, clotting too much, I would say, how does dad want the family to come together? Where is their separation? Because blood is always related to the family. And if it's coming together and it's clotting, it's so that I can have my family together with me. And so, yes, the medication can aid in this aspect of helping at some point. But if we don't go there and we look at the underlying reason why our body did this, because we really believe that it's not a malfunction, but rather a turbo function in helping us to deal with the emotions related to, I feel separated from my family. Like, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with isolation, separation, not being able to live our normal life. And so, of course, people are going to have challenges with this. Of course, the blood, especially of somebody older who also understands immortality, there is this aspect that we have to look at mortality, and especially as we get older. And so I imagine that that's what your dad was really experiencing. Most of us are not taught how to address our conflicts, what to look for. If I have a symptom, I have an issue. that I either have brushed under the carpet to keep going, I'm not aware of it, and the other thing, Lily, is what's so beautiful is that you were sharing about your experience. None of us are immune from this. Our body has this amazing wisdom. Oh, you're suffering in this way. Let's come back and let me help you. We'll bring the blood together as to bring the family together so that you can get through this conflict. And when person understands this, they have the ability to be able to heal and move through. The brain says, oh, they understand, and maybe doing a little bit of letting go exercises. But we also say 80% is just about awareness. Sometimes we bring these things into our awareness and our body can automatically shift. So that's what I would say about your dad, and maybe something that he might be dealing with at this moment.
It makes a lot of sense because, yeah, it makes a lot of sense because, my mom and dad have been married 67 years, and my mom has advanced dementia. At this point, at this point, it's beyond. I remember talking to Dr. Day because I want her to eat well, and I want them to bring her the right things. And Dr. Day just was so sweet. She said to me, Lily, just keep her comfortable. At this point, she's not going to change. Just keep her comfortable. And one day she'll come back to you whole. And I thought, what a beautiful image. That was just so like, she'll come back to me whole. Like, and I'm like, wow, that has sustained me. But when this happened with my dad, and I've been for the last 2 years trying to get him off because he's using the ground therapy. Their mattress is grounded, and so that's a blood thinner there, and he's got bruises all over his arms, and that's a sign that he's taking too much blood thinner. And then of course this bleed, what a blessing. And so we think of things as, oh man, this is horrible that he had this, his hemoglobin went down to 7, he might need a transfusion. But the fact that we discovered that they took him off the Plavix, they took him off the baby aspirin. And I said to my sister, will you now put him on natural vitamin E? Natural vitamin E is a wonderful blood thinner with no, yes, you can get the bruises, but that means you're taking too much. So you adjust it. So with this, people will listen to what the doctor say, what the hospital says in blind faith. But the reality is everybody has issues. And like Dr. Day say, I'm going to quote her a lot today because she's been my voice in my head, that doctors die of the same diseases that we die of. They don't, and she says they don't cure a thing, but the reality is we have got to build this esteem in us, this intuition in us. What causes for us to have low self-esteem? What are some of the things that we can become aware of? Because we need to start building, just like my dad, after taking him from the medication, his body is building.
So it's super interesting, Lily, when you say about some of the things that you mentioned about low self-esteem and some of the effects that can happen when we have low self-esteem.
Yeah, you won't listen to your doctor. You will listen and do everything and follow blindly because
they know better.
They know better.
They're the authority. Because we've been taught to not trust our inner wisdom.
Correct.
That's number one.
Yes.
Okay. And that we haven't felt good enough to trust our inner wisdom. And so for me, addictions come from one place. Okay. It comes from lack. And so it can be lack of love, lack of food, shelter, clothing, love, respect, kindness. Okay. And that the self-esteem is rooted in what, we say project purpose, this 18 months before you're born, 9 months before conception, everything that mom and dad are experiencing. Are you wanted? Are you desired? Are you planned for? Okay, because in the big scheme, you're supposed to be here, because none of us would be here if we weren't supposed to be here. We wouldn't be here. And so we believe that that God, the divine, brings us to this place, like you and I believe this, this is our background, and that we each have a purpose. We each are unique individuals. Well, what happens is we come into oftentimes a world of unfinished business, a world of low self-esteem, a world of not feeling like we belong, a world of being rejected, a world of not being planned for. So then, like we talked about before, we end up believing the lie, okay, that doesn't belong to us, that maybe our parents weren't planned for or wanted, but they're here for a reason. Being not wanted doesn't mean that you don't end up being loved. It means that you're a surprise, and like it's not always a great surprise. And when you come in that moment, it's like, sometimes our parents are like, oh no, what are we going to do? Well, the child will take on the unfinished business. The child will take on the secret suffering of the parents and become the biological solution in that. So many of us become human doings. We're doing this, we're doing that, we're trying to prove our existence. We have forgotten our core essence. Who are we? What makes us tick? What were we put on this earth for? When we forget this low self-esteem, we buy this lie that we're not supposed to be here, and we don't show up. And this is what is this whole, it's rooted in that. And so once we begin to understand, we really are made in the image and likeness, that we are light beings, that we are a part of the divine, and that each one of us plays a role in that. How it plays out, what it looks like is different for each one of us. And we all have to be reminded, hey, you really are this light being. How are you going to show your light? How are you going to step into who you are? Yeah. But we forget, and then we disregard, and we play small, and that doesn't serve us well anymore. So that's just a little bit about self-esteem.
Well, let me tell you, when you're talking about, okay, maybe you were unwanted and you're carrying the business of your parents. But here's the thing, we make up stuff about it. We make up stuff about it. I told you when I was 7th, Mr. Torres told me I would never amount to much. This is my 2nd grade teacher, that I would never amount to much. And then when I was about 9, 10 years old, I stopped learning how to play the piano because I got found out that I didn't know how to read music after a year. My sister used to play it, and then I would copy her. And so when we started doing sight reading, the teacher would bang my fingers on the piano because she knew I didn't even know what I was doing. But I told my mom I didn't want to learn how to play the piano. Well, she told my paternal grandmother, and she said, Lily, if you stop learning how to play the piano, I will stop loving you. So I made up about it that I was unlovable. I made up about it that I wasn't enough, that I would never be successful. And it didn't matter how successful I was and how many accolades I received, it was never enough. And so those are the things that awareness. And when you and I were talking before the camera goes on and we were dancing and all that, before all of that, when I did the workshop, one of the things that I taught everybody to do is breathe. And breathing is, and once I did that exercise with them, I realized that I am not, because there's all the vacation, the product launch, the workshop, moving, all of these things that I have going. And I said last night to Robert, I'm not breathing right. I need to just like, so barely made it here today. Ate some lunch at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. This is not my life. This is what happens to us when we are unaware, and it could happen to anybody. And so how appropriate that, all these things happen today prior to the class so that we can talk real time. I'm sure that all of you who are watching may have a moment that you made up something about yourself that makes you feel smaller than you are. And so if you want to text me at 407-373-5959, and I'll mention it to Dr. Michelle, that this is what you're feeling, and she can say maybe what the root of that is, where it's coming from, because that's so important that we become aware. Just like becoming aware that I was not breathing made me say, I have got to get to bed early today. I have got to do the things that I need to do to take care and love myself. But many of us don't do it. And listen, if I had to throw myself in front of a truck to help my dad, I would do it. But to be able to see that my dad was experiencing these symptoms and the medical profession didn't even care that these were new for my dad, and just kept treating it like whatever and kept giving him that medication until I got there. And if I didn't feel anything, if I didn't have the knowledge, the little bit of knowledge that I have to question, not that because I know it all, because I had to research it. And while I was there, if I didn't have that, I don't care if you like me or not, I've got to protect my dad, because now he's 90 years old and doesn't have a voice for himself. So with that in mind, when you question, you realize, okay, I'm building a little bit. Because when you think about when I was a kid and made up all the stuff about me to where I'm at today, but that doesn't mean I'm out of I have no problems with my self-esteem, because we all have different kinds. How does self-esteem problems with low self-esteem manifest?
So it shows up. It's so when we have a conflict, it doesn't matter what the conflict is, it shows up in our life and we're met with it. And so we look at the life experiences. And so we could say, how old am I in this moment? What happened at half my age? What happened at half my age? What happened at half my age? We'll have a similar type of experience. It doesn't mean it's going to be the exact same thing, but it will be the very similar flavor of how we're feeling. This deep sense of self, of I'm not enough, I'm not worthy. And it comes up in different ways. I remember being in grad school and seeing, and then anytime we compare ourselves to anybody else, we're inviting depression, we're inviting that low self-esteem to come. We don't walk in anybody else's shoes. We only walk in our own. We can't compare ourselves to anybody else because our journey is different. And so when the awareness, Lily, you are aware. So today you're very different than you were 10 or 15 or 20 years
without a doubt.
You didn't have any of those tools. So awareness is so key. Just by being aware, now you have the ability to say, oh, wait a minute. My life is a little bit out of balance today. And I had a friend, she would tell me, because I would always be in my head, she'd be like, drop into your belly, breathe from your belly. Because like, think about it, when we're in sympathetic overdrive, we're often breathing from our chest, from here. But think about the babies. And when you see your little babies and their little bellies are going up and down, this is diaphragmatic breathing. So when we make our belly or tummy muscles soft and we breathe into our belly and out through our mouth, we automatically put ourselves in a parasympathetic phase. And they're very simple tools to be able to do this. And all of us have to learn these ways of being in the world, because we don't get handed a manual. We are pushed to do, to perform. It's so much is about success and what we're doing. And that if we take time for ourselves, so often we're labeled as selfish. No. And so now we have to say, no, it's called self-care. And if we don't take care of ourselves, then we can't take care of anyone else. And so understanding that I am important, that, if we were talking about hungry, angry, lonely, tired, halt. I need to halt. Let me check in. Am I hungry? Are there things that are triggering me, that I'm angry and frustrated? What's going on in my world, in my inner circle, in my body, with my family, with the outer circle? Because we know many people are getting triggered right now, and it's not easy. Lonely? Do I need connection? Do I need love? Because many times when we get into that place of judgment and devaluation, we need more love. And so here we are criticizing ourselves versus just saying, oh, my little girl, Michelle, she needs a little bit more love.
Give you
That
a little
little
hug,
girl,
little
Lily,
butterfly
she
hug.
needs a little butterfly hug to get her through. Let me breathe. Let me come back to myself. Even though I got jarred today, even though it's been so challenging and I'm tired, I love and accept myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgive myself. I'm always doing the best I can with the resources that I have. And I choose to let this go. I'm going to take a step back, even with the doctors, because these people, they trigger us because we know that that can hurt us. And that there's this double-edged sword that medication can be good, but I would say use it as a temporary thing. Don't use it as the magic bullet. There is no magic bullet. The only way through something is actually through it. We can't go under it. We can't go over it. We can't go around it. And the option is to stay in our yuck, to stay in that place of misery and despair. I'm thinking about my 20s versus my 50s. You know, really is so different because today I see my value. I stopped buying those lies that I wasn't supposed to be here, that, you know, like the circumstances for which I came in weren't, you know, ideal. No, they were ideal for exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the ways that we can reframe, we can get back into our body, we can ground in, we can honor ourselves, we can love ourselves and go deeper with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, it's one of those things that these what we think of curses in our life, you know, child molestation, being abused physically, emotionally, spiritually, being in bad relationships, you know, not being so shy that you feel neglected or nobody sees you, all those things that contribute to what we make up about ourselves. That awareness, what I'm hearing you say is just, you know, how does somebody dissect it so that they're able to embrace that and say, okay, I am no longer this person, or I don't want to be this person. Because when I was a little girl, I was brutally shy, brutally shy. I was the wallflower. If you know, if you looked at me, I would cry. But then again, I didn't know I felt people.
Mm-hmm.
I felt people. And so that was what I was going, and everybody made fun of me to top it off. You know, I've seen other people that are bullied and they develop self-esteem issues. I see people that are, you know, that the parents not there, even though they're there, they're not there. Maybe they're alcoholics or anything like that. How, first there has to be a desire to change, but
Yeah.
how
Or
are the,
is that you're in so much pain, that depth of pain that you're
yeah,
in. And do I want to have something different show up in my life?
yeah,
Do I want, and you know, and probably many, many times I think that because of the experiences of our ancestors, you know, our birth order number, our ancestral experiences, if somebody is bullied, there was bullying from above. When we recognize that we really are part of a larger connection with our ancestors, with our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents, that it's not our unique experience, but rather it's something that our entire family, this is a hand down from my aunts, from my uncles, from my mom, from my dad, from my grandparents. And so, and then it's like, okay, I don't have to live this anymore. Just by bringing that part, and it's almost like you take a step back, take a breath, and become the observer of the situation. What would you tell your friends if you saw them going through a similar experience?
mm-hmm,
Many times we'll be able to say, oh, they should do this and this and this. So how can you do that for yourself?
mm-hmm,
How, you know, most of the time when our friends, we see so many beautiful qualities in our friends. Why don't we see it in ourselves? So it's our friends are a reflection of who we are. And so when we can embrace that in them, and in ourselves, we can grow, we can blossom. We say in recall healing, especially with Gilbert, I bust out in Gilbertisms. And so we keep going so we can keep growing, because it's this progress, not perfection. It's this, let me take this nugget of like, oh wow, I don't feel so great about myself. How can I live more in alignment? What is coming up? Is this part of my programming, my ancestry? Is this part of the woundedness that I carry? How can I begin to shift that? And we use Byron Katie's work with the 4 questions of, is it true? So many times, like if you're believing a thought about yourself, is it true that I'm not smart? Is it? And I used to think, like, when you said that, it's like, I used to think I was the dumbest person. And like, I mean, even halfway through my PhD, I thought, oh no, but one of my mentors said to me, Michelle, there's a lot of people that are smarter than you. And there's a lot of people that aren't as smart as you. It doesn't really matter. It's who you are on the inside, because that really is the collective. And obviously I have some intelligence, given that I did make it through 2 master's degree and a PhD. But even in that, it's like proving my own existence to myself.
It's never enough. It's never enough.
It's never enough. And so today I'm learning how to be a human being. Mm-hmm. I'm learning to let go of the doing, always doing to prove my existence to others, but also to myself. So awareness, breathing, living in alignment, connecting myself with my ancestors, understanding that this is a direct hand down for what my ancestors are experiencing. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to carry that anymore. It no longer serves me. So sometimes I'll see myself cutting these ties that of lack, of I'm not good enough, or, oh, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not beautiful enough. All of that nonsense does not serve us well. So it's like, get out of ego, get into our beautiful purpose of who we are, how we touch other people's lives, how we show up in life.
That's wonderful. I mean, I hope that everybody was able to identify themselves, especially, we have got to decide if we're going to allow these people in our lives to continue to abuse us. But again, there are people in our lives that if we shut them off, then that sets up a lot of other different emotions of guilt and shame and blame and fault. And that's what I try to eliminate with the word responsibility. I want people to take ownership and say, these are the beauty. Many people think that blessing has everything to do with good fortune. And the reality is, blessing could be thinking that when you were a child, that you weren't enough. And then you use that experience to learn new truths, experience how to, what needs to be different in your life in order to get out of it, and then use that experience to help others. That to me is taking 100% responsibility, ownership for creating the life that you want. They say, Michelle, that time heals all, but that's BS. Time does nothing if you don't do anything. If you don't pick up your mat and walk, like the paralytic man that was just sitting there by the pool for 38 years waiting to jump in, but somebody else that wanted it more would jump in first. And so, Jesus asked the paralytic man, do you want to be healed? Jesus didn't just levitate the person and, put him in the pool. No, he said, do you want to be healed? So we're asked the question too, what do you want? And then and then he said, pick up your mat and walk. He didn't say, okay, here, let me help you out. No, we've got to create it. When you're falling from a parachute and you're deciding that, well, the parachute's going to open itself if God wants it. Those are some of the things that we go through that we need to realize, no, I need to tug it. I need to open it. So when you are working with people that have low self-esteem, on top of it are getting a payoff because now they're a victim. Now what? because they're benefiting from this poor me kind of thing. I'm not good enough, poor me.
I just call them on it and say, you have a choice. Like, we all have a choice. We can, and so many things that you said about responsibility, and, it's like, are you going to show up? Are you going to do you want your life to be better, or are you happy in that? If you're happy in your victimhood, then stay there. That's fine. This is no skin off my nose. But the thing of it is that you have a choice. We all have a choice. And when I started even thinking about, maybe I even chose to come into this exactly like it is,
for
with
the
the abuse,
experience,
or with the sexual abuse, or with the bad marriages, or the hard marriages. But, I had, I consider them these little angel mentors. They're human beings, but they came into my life at the perfect moment, which like gave me some nuggets to be able to keep going, to not give up, to persevere, because that pain was so big and so deep that it was this ongoing process of, like, I have a choice, and it's only like this a moment in time. It's not going to be like this forever. These are the things, and God writes straight with crooked lines. Seriously, everything that I have experienced in my life has shown up in my office somehow, some way. And it's so crazy to see it. But then it's not that I'm better than anyone. It's that I have chosen to use these tools to walk through it, to make a difference in my life, to take full responsibility, to honor that there was a process, and that we're all, we're perfectly imperfect. And so through these lessons, we get to hone our skills, better our best, not take things so personally, always, working toward just being in that moment, in peace and harmony, and living in alignment. So I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, it does. So as we're, I'm all about the solution. And
Yes.
as we are learning about how to embrace low self-esteem, instead of hiding from it, bring it in and hold on to it and say, okay, how can I nurture it? And
Love it.
I was thinking about that, as I was preparing last night before I went to bed, because I knew I'd be gone all day. I was thinking that, what would I want? How would, because, okay, let me just rephrase that. What are some of the things that were important to me as I started getting out of shyness and getting out of that victim and getting out of all the things that no longer supported me? One of them was knowing my values, knowing what it is that I stand for, that perhaps now has changed. So how important is sitting with yourself and saying, what do I want? Do I want to be this way or not?
Yeah, I think that it's super important. And even, who am I? Who am I for myself? What are my likes? What are my dislikes? What drives me? What feeds me? What nourishes me? Because all of these make up who we are as individuals, as unique individuals. Like, I hear it in my mind, Sister Carmelina, Sister Francette, these women that,
Jimmy the Cricket.
good morning, good people. And so it's so funny, because the stepping into our light, loving all of those aspects, the extra weight, the cancer, the diabetes, the low self-esteem, the addiction, because all of those things, they give me understanding that, what is my true essence? What am I here for?
Yes.
Who did God make me to be? And all of those little things, the painting that we love, or the creativity, or the writing, or the cooking, or the riding bikes, or hiking, all of those things are part of that. How are we with our parents? How are we in life? What does feed? And for me, it's like how can I be the hands and feet of Jesus? Really? Like, I think that those things of serving, but serving myself also, loving myself more deeply, understanding that I am less than perfect and I do make mistakes.
Mhm.
And yet I can take 100% responsibility. And many times when I step into that and humble myself, the relationship prospers, it grows, it blossoms in a whole nother way.
Mhm.
But it's all rooted in choice. What are you going to choose to do? Just one thing. Is it just change the way that you view yourself? If you just never say, "Oh, I'm so stupid," ever again, that's one thing. Because when we look in the mirror, what we say to ourselves, all of those things, or when you take a selfie and, "Oh, I don't like that. Oh, look it. Oh my gosh, I have
There's that
this."
my little eye, my little eye.
Yeah, so there's an exercise where you can take a selfie every single day, but don't erase it. And if you are inclined to say, "Oh, I don't like this," or "I don't like that," then if there's 5 things that you don't like about yourself, then you say 5 good things about what you do like about yourself,
Mhm.
to begin to see we're not all good, we're not all bad, we're a combination of many things, many avenues, and we have growing edges. So when you look at self-esteem as a growing edge versus, like, "Oh, we arrive and we're so confident," not all of us struggle in these areas
Mhm.
because of our humanity.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a comment by Catalana. She says, "You certainly don't seem shy now." Well, I'll give you a little tip about this. When you don't like something about yourself and you say, "I'm going to be okay with it," and you still don't like it, the outcome is going to be totally different than if you say, "I don't like this about myself. What can I do to change it?" So I did not like being shy because I am a little extrovert. I don't know if you know this about me. I'm a shy extrovert. So it was like turbo diesel. It was like, the tortoise and the hare. It was like I knew that I needed to get out of that. And it could have been that I was just young, but it went into my adulthood. And so I remember thinking, I need to get out of this. I wanted to get out of it. So the way I got out of it was to increase my comfort zone. So the first time you try something different and new, it's different and new as opposed to scary. It's different and new or uncomfortable. But then the next time you do it, it doesn't seem so bad. And the next time you do it, it doesn't seem so bad. And then next thing you know, you are completely reframing how you see it to the point where you don't think about it anymore. When people, when you're in a meeting and they say, "Tell us something about yourself." And I say, I'm shy. Something about yourself that nobody knows. I say, I'm shy. And everybody laughs. And one day Robert said to me, "You need to stop using that because you're not shy." And I said, "Yes, I am shy. When I'm in a very new situation, I kind of step back. I step back
Mhm.
but then I realize all I need is 20 seconds of courage. I got that. So I
Mhm.
get a little bit out of it and a little bit out of it to the point where, I'm next thing dancing on the table. So those are the things that we work on. If you want to change, I want to challenge all of you. I want you to all to think about something you'd like to change about yourself. And so if figure out what it is that you want to change about yourself and take little different bites. To take different bites. For me, it was, what changed me was seeing my friend at the time um, walk into a room. Like I would walk into a room, Dr. Michelle, and I would find the first seat I could find. I'd sit down. My friend, she would come in one end of the room and work her way all the way around until she found the seat right next to me. And she shook everybody's hand and she said hello to everybody. And and so I asked her on the way home, I said, "How'd you do that?" And she said, "I made a commitment to myself that when I walk in the room, I will shake the hand of everybody I meet. I will say hello to everybody in the room." That was her commitment. And I told her, I said, "I'm going to adopt that. I'm going to adopt that. Now, I don't go to the extreme, because you could hear her, and every single person, you could hear, you could watch her go through the room, and everybody, saw her do it. That doesn't mean she doesn't have low self-esteem. It doesn't mean that she, was comfortable doing it, but she did it anyway.
Right. And I think that it is. So what we try to say in recall healing is not necessarily what we want to change, because that sets up a fight.
Okay.
Because we're in a fight with ourselves about like, I
Okay.
want this to be different. How can I love this aspect of myself? Because then it won't be so tying, like it won't be so binding. It will give us some freedom, because we're actually, it's like if you're holding the wire and I'm holding it, and we're both going like this, and we're tightening and then tightening it. So there's more tension. When we fight something that is, then it snaps. But if we move into that direction and say, oh, this served me well for a long time. It gave me the ability to sort of navigate the room, to understand who I might be able to trust. This served my ancestors well. And so today I really admire this about my friend.
Yes.
And I'm going to, and that's what I would say, borrow or adopt.
Yes.
I'm going to borrow this behavior until it becomes my own.
Correct.
Because it takes 400 times to do something over and over again before exactly right. I know that's not you, but I'm just saying 400 times before we're changing our neural pathways. So if we do it in fun, it takes 10 to 20 times. And so it's like, if I'm in a fight with myself, then I'm always going to be in a fight with myself, versus, wow, this served me well for a while. It's not serving me so well anymore.
Yeah.
What other behaviors can I move into to add to this?
Yes.
To stretch and to grow and to become even more.
Yes.
It's not that I'm walking away from that. That certainly has made me who I am today. So let me take that, love it, and add to it these other aspects. And that's essentially what you're saying, but I'm just saying, let's reframe it just a little bit.
No. I love the fact that you reframe it, because that is exactly what I did. I told her I was going to borrow it, but I did not borrow it just like she did it, because to me, with somebody is shy, you don't want to be seen or heard.
Right. And there's a reason for that. It served you well.
Yeah.
It got you to where you are, your beautiful self. And that was an aspect that you felt driven to grow in. And that was your growing edge. So it wasn't that you had to change it entirely, because you still might scope out and use that quietness, maybe even changing the word shyness to quiet, that you love to connect, being that extrovert that you are, and that you're growing this other aspect so that you can be one to shake the hand, and you can be one to, but you're doing it from what feels good for you, how you grow that aspect of yourself.
Correct. Because that felt good for her, but it wasn't me. But I loved the concept of stepping outside myself, or making a commitment to myself that I would do something like that. That was what I did that moment. Now, it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen overnight, but the more I did it, and the more payoffs I got for doing it, and the more rewards I got for doing it, not just payoffs that are, like, I guess payoffs and rewards are pretty much the same word, but I'm giving it a different meaning. But there were some prices too, because, not everybody is open to change, the new me, because
they can't count on you that way.
That's right. Because in order, and this happens all the time. When we finished our workshop on Saturday, I said, you've changed. And when you change, the whole world changes, because your perception changes of the world, but the people have not changed around you. And not only that, But those people that are seeing you and how you got shot out of a cannon because you attended a workshop, whether it was your recall healing workshop or my I'm the solution workshop or Dr. Day, and by the way, go to whenyouneedafriend.com and we have a page. So if you want to join the next one, just let me know that you want to be a part of the next one. But we've got the next Bible workshop, the Bible study that we're doing, New Truth Series, 50 lessons from Exodus. So those are things that you do to, okay, learn. I want to learn a little bit more. You want to do something. And that's what we do. We step out of our comfort zone. We step out totally out of our comfort zone.
Because you're so right that it feels so funky in your body. It doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, am I ever? But the more you do it, just baby steps, a little bit at a time, breathe into that. Take your time. It doesn't, there's no time that you have to do something. But when you say, I'm growing my edges, then here's something where I'd like to, that I'm noticing this about myself, and I'd like to expand and actually have a different experience. And this is how I can do that. But that it's true. One thing at a time, looking, growing, doing a workshop. And it's right. Energetically, it's crazy how when we shift, the other people, they can't count on that place that you once were. And so even if you were in a super negative place, a person could count on that. And so when you start to shift, nobody's going to give you a high five for that.
Correct.
They just won't, because you're different and they don't know that they can trust that new difference, that you feel different and energetically you are different.
Yeah.
And so and also if the other person decides that they don't want to, also continue on their own road and shift and grow, you may end up outgrowing them. You may end up having to move beyond, and that can be quite painful.
It is. I'm dealing with something like that right now myself, of a relationship that was outgrown. And it was a long-term relationship. And, because sometimes people teach you who they are. And even when you neglect or try to ignore some of these little flaws, these little things, people show you who they are. You better believe them. And so so when you start that growing process and they start feeling uncomfortable that you are growing, they try to sabotage you. And so that's when you need to know your values and say, I love myself. I love you. I love me just how I am. And I accept myself. I don't say it the way that Dr. Michelle says it, but it's still my language. And so that's
it, right?
That's it. And so before we go, because I just looked at the time, because I don't have Robert counting the clock, but I do want to share with everybody that we need for you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com and please subscribe, because we don't know how long we're going to have the privilege of being on these platforms. So I want to encourage you to do that. And while you're at whenyouneedafriend.com, like and follow, do everything you can to connect, especially with those social media platforms that do not censor, like BitChute. We're going to upload the videos on brand new tube. So I think we've already established it, but we haven't uploaded because I've just been so busy. And so please make sure that you stay aware, because if anything happens, we need to be connected, because this is information that people don't necessarily want, because they don't want you to change. They want you just the way you are. And that might be fine, but it may not be where you want to be. And that's where it becomes unfine. That's where it becomes, you do whatever it takes to live the life that you want. And so please not only do that, go to my sponsors. Tomorrow we're going to have Keep Me Safe Organics. And I know Dr. Michelle uses the products too. And there's just so many different Keep Me Safe Organics. There is First Alternative Care. You can go on and on and on with all the different discounts. And so please support them the way that they're supporting the classroom, because every time you go there and you purchase anything, it supports the classroom. And then secondly, you can become an enrolled student. I don't have the same kind of sponsorship that I had before because of the way the economy is. So this is a blessing, because now it's the generosity of the people, and it's trust. It has allowed me to trust that I will be taken care of, not just me taking care of everybody. I am trusting that people will say, okay, I don't go to a church, or maybe I'm going to take some amount of money that I'm going to give to a church and then give to you, or a nonprofit organization and give it to you. Not me, the classroom, so that we can continue to grow. Because as these things, the censorship gets deeper, if it gets deeper, then it's going to cost more money to broadcast this program. And so we're already getting censored left and right, but I need for you guys to help out by your time, your talent, your treasure. Share the information. And I also want to share that you can get some information about Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson, PhD, at soultreetransformations.com. She and I had a workshop in the exact same time. And so we're both praying for one another. I love, love, love our friendship, Dr. Michelle, because we're not going, we don't have to go through the poor you kind of thing. It's like, okay, how'd you create it? What lesson is it? We can go straight into the, okay, let's recuperate. Let's get better. But if somebody were to walk in right now and start watching this program now about low self-esteem, and they may know they have low self-esteem, but they have not acknowledged it to themselves, what would you say you would want them to know in the last few minutes of the classroom today, before we go to the teacher's pet corner? And by the way, I must mention, I could hear Robert in my head. I love all all the people who listen to the podcast. So please feel free to join us live on Facebook and YouTube as well. So I'm so grateful to everybody. But if you were to say to the people that are tuning in right now, what is the secret to stepping outside yourself and creating something different and new without feeling fearful and anxious or depressed about it? Just excited, which is another name of all those things with a different emotion.
So the biggest thing is just to say yes.
I love
just to pray for the willingness to be willing to do one thing. And I would also say that there may be fear. Breathe. There may be like anxiety. Breathe and come back to your core, because you wouldn't be here if you weren't supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And in my belief, it's divinely orchestrated. Everything that we are here, that we have a divine purpose, that we are light beings, and to continue to focus on the light, and that you always touch other people. So don't forget that you are here for a reason. Say yes.
I love that. And one of the scripture verses that I love in Romans 8 is that God works things out for the good of all. So that means all means all. That means you and me. So even if we perceive something as a negative, just wait. Just wait. If you believe in the promise, right? If you believe in the promise, you'll say, okay, this was intended for my good. What is the good that this was intended for? And when you
that little thing of a mustard seed, right? Just that little teeny tiny mustard seed. That's all you need to take it.
That's it. That's it. Okay. So for those of you who want to learn more about Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson, who has Soul Tree Transformation, just go check them out. It's transformations. Go check them out. And for those of you who want to learn, want to sign up for the, we've already got the 50 lessons from Exodus. It's already there. Click on it. Go to whenyouneedafriend.com. If you want to be a part of our next workshop for the I Am the Solution, I am just so thrilled to invite you to that. The transformations for this weekend were phenomenal, and we're starting a small group from it, which we're going to support each other and help each other. Small group coaching, which I'm so excited. I've never done small group coaching in this way. I've done it in different ways, but not this way, where we've all gone through the same experience together and we're all going to lift each other up. So I'm really excited about that. So just make sure you stay connected. And I'm going to take a little pause here. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. I'm not going to take a little pause because I need to thank you. I need to thank you. And because I want to thank you for being not only, because sometimes you meet people and they're one way in front of the camera and they're another way behind the camera. And I want to say this. I don't know if I say it every time and I don't remember that I've said it, but I want to thank you for being who you say you are.
Thank you.
And the whole point of the workshop, there's a lot of points for the workshop, but I always say you've become a self-cleaning oven. And so I love yeah, I'm a self-cleaning oven. That image came to me a long time ago. And be who you say you are. And, when I'm off the air with Dr. Michelle, she is just as sweet and loving and caring as she is on the air. So I want all of you to know that if you ever want someone with her background with German new medicine, recall healing, I mean, she's a Swiss Army knife of self-help, so self-heal. Go check her out. Her phone number is on her website, or the way to contact her is on her website. But there maybe something I say resonates with you, or maybe something she says resonate with you. But whatever you do, take that first step to that self-care that Dr. Michelle talked about today. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Okay. So this is where Robert's going to mute us, and then he's going to add the music, and that's for the podcast. For all these podcast people, I just absolutely love the podcast. Now, one thing, okay, let me just stop because Robert says, can you just give me a pause? Giving you a pause, Robert.
We love you, Robert.
Okay.
We have so much to say.
I know. And so, okay. So one of the things that I want that I did not do this time that Robert does for me is that he writes that if you have any questions, type in a Q and then ask your question. And then I'll be able to ask my teacher in the classroom, Dr. Michelle. So if you do have that, and you see, I can't talk and type at the same time. So I wasn't able to do it. And Robert, I know you're listening, so I love you that you had to take care of your stuff, but you've been missed. So with that in mind, Dr. Michelle, as people are listening today and stepping into the holidays, and you had talked about where blood symbolizes family, and the clot symbolizes bringing family together. How you were able to study all of that, I think it's just phenomenal. What does the left shoulder mean? Because my left shoulder all of a sudden started hurting after we started dancing. Maybe I danced a little too hard.
So you're right-handed, correct?
I am right-handed.
So maybe the way that you feel stuck, the shoulders are what gets stuck when we're going through the birth canal. Okay, so you might feel stuck with the doctors. Okay, and also maybe even judged. Okay, here's your family, and so the left side is the way that we feel judged by other people, especially our family. But here, there's a doctor, and I know you know so many amazing things, and then you have your family. And we don't always see eye to eye.
You're not a prophet in your own. You're not a prophet in your own land.
Exactly. Yeah, you're not a prophet in your own land.
And it's not my job to save anybody, so I'm okay with it now.
Right. And yet maybe there's a little tinge that might hurt from time to time. And so thank you to my shoulders for carrying this for me. So thank you. And the pain comes in the repair many times. So that means that maybe you were feeling that way, and then just by talking about it, you're feeling better about the situation. And so that can be when the pain comes. And then we want to keep going with it. So just breathe into it. Even literally feel the breath coming into your shoulder can open up and expand the oxygen in there.
There it goes. All gone. No, nice. One of those things where I do need to do a letting go exercise, because to see what happened to I don't feel like I need to watch my parents at all time. I don't feel that. They're surrounded in a community, they're well taken care of, and you would think that, right? But no. No one
Yeah.
takes care of the people you love more than the people who love you, not the
Hmm.
people who get paid to serve you.
Right.
I didn't get paid a dime, and I
No.
was there, but I guess I just needed to let it go. And because had I not been there, because it was like, man, I've got so much to do, but I needed to be today. I needed to
Yeah.
be there for my dad. I needed
Well,
to,
and sometimes we're called into that place, right? That we have these things that we think, and that's part of the saying yes. That, I grew up Catholic, and so we had a priest friend that said, sometimes going to church is not what you're supposed to do. Sometimes you might be going to church and then your neighbor comes over and really needs a friend. That's church. So what you did today was the most important thing that you could have done. And you took a step and you walked into that, and you were the hands and feet of Jesus for your family, for even a witness to the doctor. And so it doesn't mean that it's easier and that you don't get rattled, and it doesn't mean that you're not living, and it's painful to see your parents declining. It's
yeah,
painful to see that aspect. And so really just talking about it, honoring it, Lily, I think that is the most beautiful thing. And to be transparent to the other people, to show that you're really walking your talk. You're
yeah,
really struggling sometimes in these things. Me too. And what you said about losing a friend. And I'm really like in these last 8 months, there's been a few friends that are really
you and I have
important,
talked about that. Yeah.
right? And even recently, another person. And it's been painful, and I've had to grieve and move into it. And even what you said, I wasn't breathing. How many times can you walk around the house, catch yourself to say, oh, I'm holding my breath?
Yeah.
How many times in a day do you hold your breath? Just beginning to pay attention to that, and then dropping back into your belly, into your life, and breathing. Oh, wait a minute. This is a really painful time. That I don't like to see my father declining. I don't, and then when somebody doesn't take care of my dad the way that I would take care of my dad, that pains me. So
Mhm.
then you take that step back, you become more the observer, which makes you the amazing advocate that you are. And so it's all of that, right? So we use everything as the grounds. It's all opportunity. It's all a place that we can grow these edges. And so I just really love and now that we know each other even so much more, there's this richness that happens in the classroom that I'm
Yeah.
just so grateful for. So,
Wow.
so
Thank
thank
you.
you, Lily, for what
Yeah.
you do and who you are.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I must say, I guess where I am, I know this, and I hear Dr. Day say it all the time. Doctors don't know how to heal. They don't know how to heal. They know how to prescribe medication, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe it offers a quick fix, but it doesn't solve the problem. And
Mm-mm.
so the fact that I was there, but prior to that, so since Sunday, I got notification that my dad was bleeding on Saturday during the workshop. And
Oh,
then on Sunday that he was admitted in the hospital and his hemoglobins were 7. But here I am, I got to stay focused. And I would have, if I wasn't doing the workshop, I would have said, okay, let me go. But I knew my sister was there, and I love my sister, and I know she's taking care of but the difference between my sister and I is that I question the doctor, and she does when her intuition kicks in, but I do it more. I do it before
yeah.
I do it. So when I saw her injecting that medication in my dad, and
You're
and
like,
and but I did not, I said, are these the same medications in a liquid form that he's been on?
right.
And I don't want to repeat myself, but I guess I'm repeating myself. It needs to get out of me. So I know we did that little dance before we got started. I think I need to dance. I need to dance a little bit
Like,
more. Yeah,
to get out
I need to do
something like,
more.
oh, you know that the saying of shake it off. Like literally in nature, that's what happens. So when like an animal's fight,
Yes.
you'll see them walking away, shaking their body. That's literally the way to get rid of that kind of energy. And so, but talking about it is that too. So something that bothers us, and especially if you're mindful about what it is that you're experiencing, it may take a little bit. The other thing is that you can maybe check in with your timeline of like, where else, maybe it's also, maybe there was a piece of feeling disregarded, or they don't look at me because I'm the doctor. We all have that wisdom, and so many times we do get disregarded, but the doctor is like mom and dad. So where's the first time that you felt disregarded? And then you go and you heal that aspect of yourself, growing yourself with the resources coming into today. Then it's easier to take a step back and say, oh, this is not about them. This is about like what's being triggered in me. Let me pay attention to that. This is painful. Is it because they're not taking care of my dad? Where else did the family member not get taken care of well?
That's right.
So it gives all kinds of food to be able to go deeper and to keep going with it, and to understand none of us are immune from this process. And we do get hooked, and we do have hard time. And especially where we love, and when we love deeply, our family and our friends, and then we're called to detach. What? That's so hard. It's so hard.
It is. But you know what? It's so worth it. It really is worth it. Today, when I was talking and I was saying, enough, I said, enough. I mean, why would you put that medication in my dad? He doesn't have ulcer. It's the Plavix and the baby aspirin. It's all that. Why again? Why are you doing the colonoscopy? Why are you, and all these different things? It was just like, enough. It is time for us to be our own advocate. It's time for us to be advocating for our elderly parents and not trust that everything that they get is supposed to be in them. I guess I'm still experiencing a little bit of anger within me. And that's why I was so exhausted, because I don't allow it to stay within me. I let it go. But when I spoke with the doctor, this is what happened. I was so upset, and I said, I want to speak to your head nurse. But I was calm. I mean, I wasn't yelling or anything. I was like, enough. Why would you put something more when we're trying to get rid of the stuff that was in him? The moment they took him off the blood thinners, he started getting better. The moment they took him off, but it wasn't fast enough, I guess, because we know more than God. The body knows how to heal immediately once we take away and give it what it needs, right? And so and I'm like, well, the doctor ordered it. Well, then I want to talk to the doctor. So I'm texting my children. We have a family text, and I said, pray for me. I am so upset. And then I hit send, and then I was going to say what was going on when the doctor came in. So I could just imagine all my kids going,
oh no,
what is going on with mommy? What is going on with mommy? And they're like texting me individually. Are you okay? Are you okay? And I put the phone down, and there's that shyness in me, and still the voice in my head, don't defy authority. And I took a stand for my dad. And I think I needed to just like, just take that out of me. I took a stand for my dad, regardless of who was standing in front of me.
Yeah.
And it was a doctor with a big old mask, and she was lovely. She was lovely, and she listened. But this is what she said. This is our protocol for people who have bleeding. And I said, I understand that the first day, but when the blood stops and hallucinations start and babbling starts and dementia symptoms start, then the protocol ends. But that's what didn't happen. He could have been sent home with this medication, and next thing you know, he's joined my mom in the memory care unit. All because of medication, not because of dementia. So I guess I guess I want to use this experience to wake you up, wake all of you up and say, my registered service mark is not for just being cutesy. You can take a pill or you can take responsibility. But the word responsibility is not blame, shame, fault, or duty. It's ownership. It's saying enough. I am going to rely on my intuition, and not only that, not just rely on my intuition, educate myself. Educate myself.
It's so key. And there is, when you start to educate yourself and you really see the big scheme and the things that are going on, it's really eye-opening, and it can be quite challenging. So a little bit at a time, but the biggest thing is to know that you have every single thing that you need within inside of you. And when you go inside, you can heal, you can shift, you can transform. You're moving mountains. And when you go outside, you're never going to find it, because it's God within. It's us. It's our divine self. We have the ability to heal, to transform. We have the ability to do all of it. We might have to educate ourselves. We might have to learn new tools. We might have to recognize that maybe this doesn't totally work and this might work better at this time, but we have the ability. And as soon as we learn that we can trust, and I have this thing, Lily, that I believe that part of it is because of the things, the chemicals that they're putting in the water, in our toothpaste, that this crystallizes the pineal gland. And so it causes us to be disconnected from ourselves. Mm-hmm. So we need to pay attention to what we do put into our body in order so that we can stay deeply connected. So putting good things, putting pure things into our body, including the things that we tell ourselves. Mm-hmm. And understand that we have this magnificent ability to heal ourselves. And so it doesn't mean that we're not going to be hurt. It doesn't mean that we're not going to be angry. It doesn't mean that we won't have frustration. And it does mean many times we'll be asked to step up and to say, let me check into that. Wait a minute, that doesn't feel true to me. That something is not quite in alignment. Pay attention to that. There was a book from the 90s that I read, and it was called The Gift of Fear. And what it was this book where so many people had disregarded their inner fear and just said, oh, this person or that person. And every single time they disregarded their inner fear, something major happened. Sometimes they would even lose their life. Wow. And so it's like we have to pay attention to what it is that is coming up for us. If we're living out of alignment, if somebody asks us to do something doesn't feel quite right, pay attention and see what else. Drop in and ask yourself, hey, what is this about? What is coming up for me? And just like you said, oh, there's an injustice going on, and Lily to the rescue, because, oh no, there's not going to be injustice on my watch.
Well, and they were all educated people. They were all educated, looking at me like this.
Excuse me? May I be safe?
So can you tell me your credentials? Well, I've interviewed so many wonderful people, and I've researched every single day. And this is kind of like my thing, but I didn't have to defend myself. I spoke what I needed to speak. I was polite. I was not mean. I didn't yell. But they knew that I knew the gig is up. Not my dad, not me, and I hope not you. Not under. Oh no, you're the aunt. Oh no, you're the aunt.
Exactly.
Well,
laughter heals, doesn't it?
It does. It does. This is the first I've been able to laugh, because it just, it was, I have to show you. I took a picture with my dad because I told my sister, get him out of the hospital last night. I said, get him out of the hospital. But you know what? If they would have get him out of the hospital last night, they would have sent him home with that stupid medication.
Exactly. So it was meant to be the way it worked. And that's the other thing that, it does say in the Bible, there's so many beautiful little sayings in the Bible, but one is give thanks for everything, you know, jump into joy and gratitude for everything, even this experience, because
Oh
it
yeah,
allowed you to advocate for your dad. And now he doesn't have this terrible drug that he's using
that's right.
that's causing dementia.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, for the typical person, I guess it doesn't. And I said, but that's not the typical person. That's my dad. And if it were your dad and you knew this was happening, you wouldn't want this for your dad, would you? Before she left, she said to my dad, you have two daughters that love you very much. I'm like,
That's
okay,
awesome.
this is my dad. This is my dad at the hospital.
Oh, that's sweet picture. I love that.
Yeah, that was right after his scope and right before he got discharged. So,
So sweet.
I know, and this is something that he said to me, and I guess we need to cut this off, but this is something that he said to me, and he's always super scared of death. He's so super scared of death. And he and I have had some deep conversations, but he's not ready for that conversation. And so he said to me, I said, Daddy, were you scared? Because, and he said, Lily, no scared. I'm no scared. Well, he doesn't talk that much accent, but and he like looked at me with clarity, and I'm like, oh, I'm glad that medication is out of his head. It's like, I'm not
So
scared. I
sweet.
wasn't scared 1 minute. And I went, that's great, Daddy. That's great. So it goes
That's
to show you
awesome.
that all these, I said, Daddy, this bleeding was a blessing, because now you're off the Plavix and you're off the baby aspirin, and we're going to put you on natural vitamin E for the blood thinners. And you also have the ground therapy mat that you sleep on. I said, you don't need the vitamin E. You got the, and then I said, this is a blessing. If it weren't for that, nobody would have taken you off the medication. And if I wouldn't be here today, they would have sent you home with this medication. So everything, but we've got to go back and we got to look for the purpose. We got to look for the meaning. We got to look for what I call it, the resurrection. Had Mary not gone to the tomb, she would have not realized that Jesus had risen. And so that's what I mean. We were
And
able to go there together. Go ahead.
it's the dying. So it's the death, like through death, there is new life. And so when we die into those old, thoughts and beliefs and step into something, then we really can, be born again. It's so funny because just this weekend, I was looking on YouTube and was reminded of when I was a little girl, and my mom and dad did retreats, and my mom always had Christian music on.
Yeah.
And so there was a kids album that was called Bullfrogs and Butterflies. And so I put it on and I was listening, and it's so true. Like, they've both been born again. They have to go through that death experience and trust that in the darkness, light will come. And so it's so beautiful. And I would just say, maybe even taking it one step further with your dad and saying, Dad, I imagine that it's been really hard during COVID because you haven't had us around a lot, and it's been more challenging. And because now you're speaking to the blood clots, or you're speaking to the thickness of the blood, and then you get him to talk. Yes, and he'll share with you. Yes, it's been so nice to even have you at the hospital, to have both
And
you
he
and your
did.
sister at the
Yeah.
hospital. And so it's like it changes it up, and you're addressing it from that deeper root of why this happened. And so all of the other blessings that came from it is true also. But then it's like, oh, here, Dad, let's talk about this too.
Yeah. Well,
So
and my dad turned to me and he goes, Lily, I don't like taking medication. I said, I know, Daddy, but isn't this great? I said, you don't have
it's
to take this
awesome.
anymore. So there's
It's
always, but we need to go
blessing.
back and we need to revisit it. And that's how you become a self-cleaning oven, because most people go, oh, I don't want to look at it. I don't want to get upset again.
Mhm.
No, because now I'm
No.
invigorated because I was able to get it out of me. And because I have my dear friend, Dr. Michelle. LaMasa-Dawson. And so check her out on, we're going to be going now because we have some more private conversation to have. And so, but I'm glad we got to have this conversation with you. And please remember, tomorrow is at 8:00 in the morning. And by the way, next year, we're doing all our classrooms at noon. We're doing it at noon. No more this 5:00 because I need to have my nighttime. I need to unwind. And so I am listening to my body. And so we're going to try a little experiment. And let me know if we were to do the classroom at noon Eastern time, if that would be something that would be a better time for you, because you could take that little break or whatever. So that's where we're going. That's where we're headed. And as long as we have breath, and we have internet and we have these platforms, we're going to continue sharing these new truths. So I hope that you will join us tomorrow morning and continue to grow together. So thank you, Dr. Michelle, for everything that you do. You are an amazing woman. Thank you.
Thank you.